So what I do is spread out my fabric all the way, all the different ones that I'm using for this pattern. Pattern that I'm using is vintage pattern again. So I put my iPad on camera and I'm going to fill the whole iPad with fabric, preferably no fold lines, make it easy. Sketchbook right here. I'm gonna sign in. Once I'm signed in, I'm going to create a new sketch, blank. I'm gonna save that as a copy. So now I'm going to import, let's see, I didn't get that, so let's see. I'm gonna scroll over and go to photos here, you can see that. Import a photo, and I'm going to start with a close-up of my dress. I'm gonna hit done because I don't want to scale it yet. So now I have a blank white page, and the second layer is the dress. I'm gonna go over here to eraser. Doesn't have to be any specific size. And I'm gonna start erasing part of the pattern back to this white. You wanna leave those black lines. You can make them again too, but you wanna leave all the edge lines, the drawn in lines, and any like this to give it that shade. I would leave that in there, and then you can go over it with just a shadow later, or you can take it out. It's just to make it look like it's actually being worn. But so you're going to go through this whole dress and just erase it back to nothing. So this way, when I put in, let's just do a quick erase here. Since it's a nice triangle shape, makes it a lot easier. It's not going to be as perfect as my other one. That would take too long. There's a couple of different erasers on your thing. If you go over here, there's a texture eraser. It makes it a bigger space, but it has a little texture. It's not as, you don't want to do it against the edges because it's going to leave a different texture. But since I'm going just in the middle, and this is just a quick tutorial, I'm going to use a bigger one. Give me a flatter shape. But see how on the edge it left a little blur line. So we're just, like I said, I'm just going to go real quick since this is just to show you how I do it. Now when you're doing it for a dress, you're going to want to take your time because you want to get in those edges. Actually, I'm going to go back in here because I want to delete this center as well since it's something different on mine. But see how I'm leaving the black draw lines, the edges? I got that line too much. And sometimes it's really easy. And this dress has part of this showing, so you can leave that. Another way you can do this, so I want to keep those two lines and show it. So you're going to go up here and add another layer on top. Go into one of your brushes, or I like to use the pencil. And so now I'm on a pencil. That pencil is on that blank layer. So now I'm going to take the pencil line and trace the outside edges of all of this so that it all stays in there. Yes, like I said, it's a little sloppier today. You're going to want to take care when you do it. See, and that has a hard edge. A little too sloppy there. And you can outline everything underneath you're going to erase. So everything here. Trying not to get too sloppy here, but get it all the way down, everywhere you need to get. So if you got everywhere, if you got everything, you should, I'm almost done, and then I'll show you how it looks when I hide that layer. So you have the dress that I outlined all the way around. Now if I go into this eye and hide the layer, it looks like I forgot the left sleeve. So I'm going to go back in and get that left sleeve, even though it's just a little bit in there, so that we can get that whole look. So let's try that again. I try to get it. So now we have that little left sleeve and the hens in here. So we know we're not going to try not to erase that. So now you have your outline. I'm going to go back to my eraser, and I'm going to use the big one with the edges, because now I know all my lines are drawn in. Oh, sorry, I forgot to get off that layer. Make sure you're on the pattern layer, so that when you go back and erase, yes, I took out the bow, that you know that those edge lines are still in there. Like I said, when you do this for a pattern, go slower, use the other eraser so you have more defined edges. But since you already have your pattern in here, you can see how it's still have that shape there. So now I have a blank dress, right? So, but it's the same pattern. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back up top, and I'm going to import a photo, and I'm going to take my main fabric photo, which is this. Now that filled my whole screen, right? So you're going to hit done and let it sit in there. Click on the layer and kill the opacity so that you can see the dress. All right? So now you're going to hold that layer down and put it underneath the dress. See, now I can see it between. But now I'm going to click that layer, so I'm using that layer again. I'm going to go up to the top, and this little four-way arrow is scale. I can't use the pen, so now I'm scaling. You can use your fingers and pinch them together to fit a smaller scale of the pattern. Try to make sure it fits that whole pattern, so I have to go a little bigger than I wanted to. Just giving you an idea of what it's going to look like. So now I got it scaled. It's filling in the bottom of the dress where it's going to go. I'm going to hit done. Then I can take that opacity on there, ramp it back up. Well, I'm going to leave it down a little bit because I need to edit my lines where I'm going to erase. So stay on that pattern. You're going to go to the more defined eraser, and I'm going to come up here. Since this is not going to be that pattern, I'm going to erase that part. And the sleeves are not going to be that pattern, I don't think. I want them that pattern. So, and you can be as free outside those lines as you want because you're just erasing this one layer. Just Just make sure you don't erase it from your dress. So the center here is not going to be that pattern, so I'm going to go in and take this fabric out of the center here. Not as clean as I'd like, but you get the idea where it's still that center pattern that you see down there. So now that's white. So now what I'm going to do again is I'm going to add another picture of the other fabric. So let's do the bodice, the top fabric, and I picked this purple down here. So now the purple came in underneath the dress because that's where it is in the layers. So, but what I want to do, because it's covering the whole dress, I'm going to stay on that layer. I'm going to lessen the opacity so I can see all the lines. See how when I go darker, I can't see those lines as defined on the top. So I want them as defined. So I put it at 59. Click back on the layer to clear that out. Now, I'm going to take my big eraser, and I'm going to clear this whole dress out, because the dress is this, but I want to keep the top purple and the sleeves this purple. And yes, I'm clearing out the middle because I don't want the middle purple. I mean, if you want the middle purple, you can keep it. Now this purple doesn't have as much of a design on it, so it doesn't really need to be scaled down. You can still tell what it's going to look like, that it has gold polka dots, right? And so we're just getting rid of all of this purple. I went a little too far into the sleeves, but you can still see what we're doing here. And I shouldn't have undone that, but just think of it as a white trim maybe. So remember, these two are still not on full opacity because I want to be able to see those style lines on the dress. So now I need color in this white part right here. I'm going to go back into photos. I'm going to grab the photos, and this is going to be the little center, just a little peak. So now, as you can see, it took over the whole dress. So again, just hit done, because you want to be able to play with the layer itself, and I find it easier to do it this way. So the layer, bring it down to a smaller design, so a smaller opacity. What also helps, I find, is if you hide these other two layers, it makes it a lot easier. So I'm going to stay on that middle layer. I'm going to go back up and hit transform, and then I'm going to use my fingers and make this really teeny tiny, like it's going to be in the dress. And just try to fit it best I can so you can see what the design is. And you can see a little Baymax in there. You can see it filled that whole line. So now I'm done scaling. I'm going to stay on that one. I'm going to take my big eraser right there, and I'm going to erase it all from the regular dress. And remember, it's still at low opacity, so I can see everything else. And it's not erasing anything but this photo. None of the other layers are being touched. Be real careful on that edge. And remember, this little piece here, this little line here is just a fold of the dress, so that's the outside fabric. So make sure you get that back in, and just that little triangle is there. So now all we see is that little piece. We can click the eye again, and their purple goes back, and click this eye on this one, and Baymax comes back. But what we're going to do also is we're going to put the opacity of all of them back together to full. So you just have to click on it twice, like this. I selected it, click it again, and I can change the opacity. And now what you have is that same dress, an entirely different design.